What's up everybody, this is Danny and it's a beautiful day. I hope everyone is staying safe out there. Today I'm going to be doing a camera comparison between the brand new OnePlus 8 Pro. I'm going to stack it up against the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra, Samsung's best, and then we're going to throw the iPhone 11 Pro Max in the mix. So let me know which video looks better. It looks like the iPhone has the best crop out of all of them, it's the widest, but they all seem to be looking pretty good right now. Let me know which microphone sounds better. Let me know what looks better. And then we're gonna test out these cameras in all different kind of lighting conditions. I'm gonna limit my timeout so there's not gonna be as many photos and videos, but we're gonna still get in depth and we're gonna see if the OnePlus 8 Pro is the camera to get this year. Let's get started. All of these images were taken in auto mode because I think it represents the average user best. No edits made to the photos whatsoever. The OnePlus and Samsung phones do have a Pro mode built in, so if you have the time to adjust for that perfect shot, you can, where the iPhone does not do that without third-party software. Let's start with the daytime pictures. It's no surprise, but they all take excellent photos during the day, and I don't think you'll be disappointed at all in any of these phones. All are sharp, full of detail and dynamic range, but after looking at almost 200 pictures side by side, here are some key differences that I noticed. Almost every shot shows the difference of the way that these cameras expose the overall scene. The iPhone 11 Pro Max usually ends up with the brightest overall image, which I think a lot of people will appreciate straight out of the camera, but sometimes it does backfire on the iPhone. Here it really messed up the overall exposure, but just like any other camera comparison, this will be a preference thing for sure. The dynamic range is great on all three, but sometimes Smart HDR on the iPhone handles the bright areas better with less clipping. Just look at my shoe and the detail here on the toe box area. The other two cameras just completely clip this portion. When it comes to things like greenery, Samsung ends up with the more contrasty image, which I know some people will love, but in some scenarios, the OnePlus 8 ends up with the heavy contrast. So let me know which one that you think looks better. A noticeable difference between the OnePlus and Samsung phones and the iPhone 11 Pro Max is the natural depth of field that you get without special modes due to their much larger sensors. Look at the building behind the tree. The windows are much more visible with the iPhone. OnePlus and Samsung I would say are closer in terms of processing style, but after the new updates on the OnePlus 8 Pro, I like the shots better in a lot of scenarios compared to the S20 Ultra. Even with the bigger sensor, I like the focusing better. Take a look here, it's blurry with the S20 Ultra from the same distance. It does go back and forth though. Look at the edge of this flower on the Ultra's image, it's sharper from this distance, but when you get closer, the OnePlus does a better job with fringing. The iPhone having that smaller sensor though just handles this like a boss with the best edge detail, and even though you don't get that insane background separation, it doesn't suffer from the same issues. Here's another example. I would say the iPhone 11 Pro has the best shot here, which is incredible because this is the oldest phone out of the bunch. The closer you get, the fringing gets worse on the OnePlus and Samsung, but OnePlus does have that excellent macro mode so you can get super close and look at how much detail there is there. So with OnePlus, you have that option. The colors are generally great on all three phones, but the one thing that I noticed is that the OnePlus is still suffering from the magenta or pink cast over the picture in certain scenarios. If you look, you can see it in the whites like the clouds here. In certain scenarios, it's really noticeable, like here where there is actually pink in the building itself. It's not a deal breaker because in a lot of scenarios, it is nowhere near as pronounced or you don't even see it at all, but I hope they improve this with more software updates in the future. When it comes to straight detail out of the auto mode, they are all extremely sharp and full of detail. Even when cropping in with 400% scale and then moving on to 1000% scale, the detail is really great on all three. But the OnePlus 8 Pro has a 48 megapixel mode on the main and wide angle camera, which is fantastic. It is not as wide as the other two cameras. I wish it was a little bit wider, but then when you crop in, you can really see the difference that the 48 megapixel makes. Just look at the building. The doors are still clearly visible on the OnePlus 8 Pro. They all have nice wide angle cameras though, which I love, but the Samsung is the best in the business in my opinion. Here is a comparison of the Galaxy S20 Ultra's monster 108 megapixel mode on the main sensor versus the OnePlus's 48 megapixel and the Apple's 12 megapixel. The OnePlus holds up fairly well, but it's no match for the Samsung, where in the trees and the water, the details are incredible. So for high resolution shots, Samsung is still boss. In this picture, look at this gator shot. Of course, I didn't want to get too close, but that 108 megapixel really shows the details of the gator. It's incredible. All three phones have zoom options, but they are all different. The iPhone is limited to 2x telephoto and 10x digital zoom, where the OnePlus has 3x telephoto and 30x digital zoom, which looks pretty terrible in my opinion. The Galaxy S20 Ultra does have up to 100 times zoom, which I wouldn't use because it looks like an oil painting, but here's a case scenario where the very usable 5x zoom shines on the Ultra. Look at the amount of detail here, just so good. The zoom definitely goes to the Ultra because even the 10x is very usable. Portrait mode is nice on all three, but here the iPhone missed where my daughter decided that she wanted to use her middle finger to point at something. Not sure where she gets those tendencies from. The iPhone here again messed up the shots, so not sure what happened here. I took this picture a few times to make sure it wasn't user error. The background separation and edge detection is great on all three, but with the Galaxy S20 Ultra, if you don't tap to focus before taking a live focus shot sometimes, this can happen where the subject is soft and the exposure is off. But I like the OnePlus 8 Pro best here. Best overall exposure with the best balance for the scenario. With the rear camera, I really like the skin tones and exposure on the OnePlus better, but when it comes to the front-facing camera, I really love the Galaxy S20 Ultra the best. Samsung really stepped it up this year. I might go out on a limb and say that I think Samsung flagships have the best overall front-facing camera so far. I'm not a huge selfie taker, so I wish I didn't have to take them as much, but I do this for you guys because I know selfies are super important to a lot of people, so I'm curious to see which one that you guys prefer in the comment section below. When it comes to video, the Galaxy S20 Ultra can shoot the highest resolution video with this incredible 8K video capture, but what you're seeing here is 4K 30 frames per second. They all look fantastic, but the OnePlus 8 Pro has the brightest video, which I think a lot of people would prefer. Here is what that wide-angle 4K video looks like on all three phones. The other two phones didn't change, but the OnePlus 8 Pro's video's colors changed slightly with more saturation. You can see it in the sky, but regardless, great video from all three, but I think the iPhone has the best true-to-life color replication here. When it comes to stabilization, they all have optical image stabilization. The OnePlus 8 is using both OIS and electronic stabilization, and it looks good this year. All of them look stable, but if I had to nitpick, the S20 Ultras has the most pronounced bounce out of the three. In extreme situations, both the OnePlus 8 Pro and the Galaxy S20 Ultra have a super stabilization mode built in. This is a great mode if you're chasing around your kids and trying to get the best looking video. I'm running as fast as I can, and you can see how smooth the OnePlus and S20 Ultra is, and the iPhone is just a bouncy mess, so I hope we see something from Apple's side on this very soon. Let's jump into the low light performance. This one is a little bit tough because this one really is going to be preference based, but the one thing that is clear in low light is the nighttime selfies. The S20 Ultra really showing that it has the best front facing camera even at night. The night mode is really something else, and even though it can over exaggerate like this, the sharpness and detail just cannot be overlooked. Here is another example of just super terrible lighting, but when that night mode kicks in, look at that sharpness. It just doesn't even compare, so the Ultra takes this one for sure. When it comes to the non-night mode shots, besides the white balance changes, it doesn't look too different until you start cropping in to see what's going on. The iPhone has the noisiest shot, which makes sense because it has the smallest sensor, and sometimes the Ultra does produce the cleaner and sharper shot, but most of the time, the OnePlus 8 Pro is the one creating the cleanest shot with the best noise reduction and detail. At 4x crop, they don't look super different besides the iPhone, but at 1000% scale, you can really see the noise and detail difference. The OnePlus is better. Here's a street shot of a car, and from first glance, it doesn't look much different, but 400% scale, look at the light source and the windshield, and you can see how much cleaner the OnePlus shot is, and then at 1000% scale, you can really see it now, so kudos to OnePlus on this improvement in camera processing. Where the iPhone really takes a hit is in the wide-angle camera at night. In moderate low light, it isn't terrible, but when you get into low light situations, it is awful. It's soft and full of noise. There's no night mode on the iPhone wide-angle camera, so it hurts because you don't get a chance to get a better shot like you do on these other cameras. The Galaxy S20 Ultra has the best performing wide-angle even without night mode. It's sharper and has more detail, and then you kick in that night mode and you can really see the detail difference in the Ultra shot. A lot of these shots I took one with night mode and one without. The biggest thing is the way that they handle the changes in between. Sometimes there's a huge white balance change and saturation levels just go wild, especially on the Galaxy S20 Ultra. One of my complaints about the S20 Ultra's night mode is sometimes it processes with a heavy green tint. It doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, it looks weird. I get flack for this all the time and I'm sure I'll get it again, but I still think that the iPhone has the more natural approach to night mode. All of it looks fake to a certain extent, but I think the OnePlus does a better job than the Ultra most of the time when it comes to temperature change difference and saturation levels. A lot of times the Ultra tends to oversaturate too much and lean towards the warm side. The OnePlus does this too, don't get me wrong, but the Ultra does this a lot more, and when it happens it can be a little too much. But let me know which one that you think looks better in the comment section below, because they all have their funky traits, so none of them are perfect. When it comes to nighttime video, the dynamic range looks to be higher on the iPhone, but the green tint on the iPhone is picking up way too heavy and it's fairly noisy. The Galaxy S20 Ultra has the right color, but the video is also super soft and is the noisiest out of the three. The OnePlus has the best detail and contrast out of all three here. You can clearly see it on the tree. Impressive nighttime video. Even walking, you can see a clear difference. So nighttime video is a go on the OnePlus 8 Pro. So that's about it. All of these camera comparisons are just nitpicking the differences at this point because they're all so good, but here are a few takeaways. The iPhone keeps up extremely well for being older, but it really needs a night mode for its wide angle camera. The Ultra is getting better with software updates, but the night mode needs tweaking, and the night video also really needs some work. The OnePlus 8 Pro has gotten so many software updates to improve the camera and it's working big time. I would love to see a reduction in that magenta cast in the photos, but it's the best camera that OnePlus has ever released and it's impressive. So if you're worried about the OnePlus 8 Pro not having a good camera, don't be, because they really improved this year. And when you consider the price of the OnePlus, it's the cheapest out of the bunch. So to me, it's the best deal in terms of the camera out of the three. Thank you for watching. I hope this helped you make a buying decision. Let me know if this is enough to buy a OnePlus 8 Pro, or are you sticking with the Galaxy S20 Ultra, or are you team iPhone? Let me know in the comments below. Subscribe for a lot more camera comparisons like this. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this, and I will see you in the next one.